Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you already know that this is my deep dive into the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light. And this is a deck that is helping me expand as a reader at an exponential rate. And it's a wonderful deck. And just in case this is your first time here, let me give you a really quick rundown of what I do in this deep dive. The night before I go to bed, I shuffle my color mass market version of the Egyptian Tarot because it's inexpensive and I can replace it anytime I want to, at least so far. And it's also a very easy deck to see. The images are clear and pristine, and so I shuffle that deck and I pull my daily card for the day, what I would benefit from giving my attention to for that next day. And then I pull the matching card from my very out of print charcoal gray and white version of the deck, my birth deck, if you will. And I explain what I mean about that in my first video of the series. So my birth deck, and I don't shuffle that one because I want to keep it as pristine and as clean as I possibly can. So I just pull the matching card out of that deck and I look at them. I note any differences that there are in the different versions of the cards. And sometimes there are small differences, sometimes there are great differences, but I notice those. And then I get help from a different deck, the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler, a gorgeous deck, which also helped me start on my journey in the direction of this deck that I'm trying to learn right now. Now, the Tarot of the Holy Light is a deck newly created, but based on the Continental Tarot system, which predates the Golden Dawn decks, such as the Thoth or the Rider-Waite-Smith, the Smith-Coleman deck. So I used that deck, which I did a deep dive with last year in summer, actually. And now, after about more than 6 months of using it, while I'm not fluent in it, I am more comfortable with it. So I'm using it as my helper deck. And what I do is I do a 3-card spread to help me unpack the meanings, the significance of the daily draw card for me for the next day. And the first card of the 3-card spread is the significance. The second card is the challenge. And the third card is the advice. So I do that, I lay it all out, I look at it, I take pictures of it for the next day, and then I go to sleep. And then I wake up, and then I live my day. And then at the end of the day, I come back and I start analyzing the cards and see how those meanings, the significance of those cards either revealed themselves to me during the day, or perhaps I could use a little bit more reflection and a little bit more self-discernment to see what the meanings of those cards were for me for the day. That makes sense, right? That's what I'm doing. So let me show you the daily draw cards right now. So you just saw that the daily draw card for me for the day was the 10 of Wands, right? And those two cards from the more modern version, the color version, and the less modern version, the charcoal gray and white card, they're basically the same, right? There's no constellation on the card. Well, let me show them to you. They're basically the same. You just saw them, but here they are again. The wands are a little bit different, not only in color, but also in size, right? The lion's head that is in the corners of both of those cards, they're drawn differently. But except for that and the font of the 10, the number, there's really no significant difference. English. There is no significant difference between the two, at least not in my eye. So we got the idea of Leo here, right? The 10 of Wands is Leo. That's why we've got the lion's head here. So the 10 of Wands points to Leo, which is the domicile of the sun, from which these fixed fire vital attributes enter the world. Fixed fire. And guess what? Do you remember? Do you know who I am? My sun sign is Leo. So, which is cool, right? My sun sign is Leo. the sun is in the domicile of Leo. I think that's a perfect sun sign. Now, if my moon were in Cancer, that would be even more perfect, perhaps, but it's not. But yeah, here it is, Leo. My card of the day is basically me in a sense, in the small cards. And when I drew this card and saw Leo, it went bing, because now one thing that is different about this deck, as opposed to, for example, the Tarot of the Holy Light. Now, the Tarot of the Holy Light, the tens are not just one sign, but all of the signs of that element. So, for example, for the wands, it's not just Leo, it's Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. So that's a little different. This one really points up the fixed sign of that element, which is Leo. And because of that, it struck me that, wait, there's another card that is also just plain old Leo, and that is bonus card, the Queen of Wands. Now you can see the Queen of Wands in this deck is a lovely card. It's a little difficult to see because of the printing of the deck, but we see the Queen sitting on her throne with her kind of fan wand, and in front of her there is a servant kneeling, and we have the lion's heads in the corners. So in this deck, as well as I believe the Tarot of the Holy Light, the fixed signs are the queens, which is cool. And I love being the Queen of Wands for several reasons. We got the two lions down below. So that idea of the fire element of the fixed fire element of Leo was, and you kind of hear that roar of the lion and that sound of the fire, right? So I love this card. And the funny thing is, of course, you can't make this shit up. We always say that. When I pulled my charm for the day, I also pull charms. I've got the Charmcast Tarot, which is a pewter set of basically picks Pamela Coleman Smith's art, really reduced to stick figures form so that you can read the card in such a teeny tiny form. I pull a Charmcast charm for myself as a different kind of daily draw, a charm for the day, maybe a protection or a calling. And guess what my charm for the day ended up being? It was none other than the Queen of Wands. Like I said, you can't make this shit up. So what happened was I pulled these cards and I thought, oh, Leo, Queen of Wands, isn't that cool? So I pulled the Queen of Wands out. And then later on, like an hour later, I went in and, I forgot to pull my charm for tomorrow. And I went in and I pulled the charm and there it was, the Queen of Wands. So this seemed like a very significant thing for me for today. Of course, at that time it was for tomorrow. But what is it all about? What does this all mean? Well, as far as image goes, we've got the solidity of the 4, the square here, and then 3 creative triangles also pointing up, reminding me a bit of the 3 triangles of the 9 of Swords, which was the card of the day yesterday. Now the three triangles pointing up, like creation pointing up to the heavens. Now, the connection, the creative connection with the divine. Here we have that, and also the solidity of the 4 matter, the 4-cornered matter material here at the bottom. I think that's a really cool way to arrange the 10 wands in the 10 of wands. And so what does it mean to me? Well, again, we said fixed fire, right? Leo. And so in this card, in this deck, the significances that are pointed out by by those who explain the deck to us are new business methods, which is apropos, alteration of working conditions, which is makes a little bit of sense to me. Unconventional trends affect reputation. Now that one is something I'm not really sure really applied to me today, but variety of personal activities, That makes sense. The new replaces the old. That makes sense. Take initiative to maintain balance, which is interesting because we usually think of balance as being like an air card. At least that's what I would think of. Libra, balance, that kind of thing. A change in personality. That ended up being pertinent to me a little bit. And also a different slant on entertainment. Now, there's also a theatrical element to this card, which I apparently seem to have erased as I was editing this down for right now. My notes. I edited my notes, and it looks like I accidentally erased that line. But there is something about theater and the theatricality of this card. And Leos are theatrical, right? That we have the presence, the drama, sure, but we are theatrical in a very real sense, I believe. So we've got this Leo card as being my card for the day. And it has some cautionary notes to it, like unconventional trends which could affect reputation, either positively or negatively. Changes in personality could be both positive and negative, right? New replacing the old. The new is not always a good thing. Sometimes the old is better. But here we've got a lot of change in the wind, a lot of change in the fire. And so that's how we begin the day. So then I pulled my 3-card spread. Yeah, again, significance for that card for me for today, the challenge and the advice. So let me show you those cards right now. You just saw those 3 cards from left to right being the 3 of Swords, Strength, a very interesting strength card, and the 7 of Cups, all upright. And if you've been following along with me on this journey, you know that this deck that we just saw cards from is intended to be read with reversals. And so I shuffle in reversals every time I shuffle. I cut it in half, turn half around, and riffle shuffle. Yes, I riffle shuffle. I cut it again in half, turn half around, and riffle shuffle. So for 3 cards to line up in a row, all upright, is significant. Just as sometimes those 3 cards all lining up reverse are also significant. And that has happened before, in fact. One day, 3 upright, the very next day, 3 reversed. Interesting. So I'm kind of anticipating that tomorrow I'm going to get another set of 3 in reverse. And remember, reversals, they're not bad cards. They're not watch out or the devil's going to get you, or you better watch out or you're going to get bit in the ass, or any of that stuff. That's not what the reversals really are. Sometimes the reversals are good things, are beneficial things, like this is a wonderful thing that's going to happen to you. But here we have 3 uprights in a row, and the first card, the 3 of Swords, upright, we don't generally think of as a very positive card, especially if we're raised and reared on the Rider-Waite-Smith, the Smith-Coleman deck, drawn by Pamela Coleman Smith, and also reminiscent a bit of the Solabusca deck, where there are 3 swords piercing this heart in a rainy gray sky, and it's the heartbreak card, right? That's not what this card is in this deck. It's particularly not upright. Reversed, we can go into that a little bit more easily, but upright, we get something else. And let me show you that card right here. We've got the cosmic egg, the Ouroboros. The Ouroboros, the Omphalos. Okay, now suddenly I get those 2 words confused sometimes. Now the Ouroboros is the snake. The Omphalos, I think, is the cosmic egg. Yes, the Omphalos. I'm almost sure of it. I get confused sometimes. Some words are just inextricably smooshed together in my brain. Another pair is Venus and Virgo, are inextricably apparently smooshed together in my brain, although they're very different. So Omphalos and Ouroboros. Ouroboros is the snake. I think this is the Omphalos. Again, the cosmic egg, to put it simply. And around that cosmic egg is not an Ouroboros, but rather a snake, a protecting snake. And we've got the three swords piercing the shell of the egg. And rather than a rainy gray sky in the background, we've got this lush greenery, right? We've got flowers. We've got the world beneath. We've got a star up in the sky with all of these Hebrew letters around it. It's a beautiful, beautiful card. And some eggs are meant to be broken. Yeah. And so it depends. Is the egg ready to be broken, pierced so that it can release a new world, perhaps? Or is it something that is not ready to be broken? It's something that breaking would be devastating. There are two, well, probably more than that, but there are at least two different ways that we can see this egg. So, upright, what do we have? Here we go. We have the Pisces decadent of Libra. I'm sorry, the Gemini decadent of Libra, in which we have Mercury radiating through. So the Three of Swords points to the Gemini decadent of Libra and its subruler Mercury, from which the mutable aspect of fixed air vital attributes are entering the world. So Mercury is shining through Gemini, the Gemini portion of Libra, through the house of Libra into our lives. And Mercury is this one, right? It's a messenger, right? Speaking messages, but also the androgen, male and female combined, yin and yang combined. It's also the one of quick movement and a little bit of a trickster at times. Moving through Gemini, which is all of these possibilities within the real fixed platform of Libra. So within Libra, Libra has set out rooms within this house of Libra for itself and its partners in crime, both Gemini and Aquarius. Here we're in Gemini's room in Libra's house, the guest room maybe. And Mercury is pouring its energy through that room into our lives. The mutable aspect pouring through fixed air. So we've got a little bit of potential drama here, right? The mutable drama with Gemini. So the drama of critical analysis is one way to think of this deck. Dissection of reality, the cutting apart of what we are perceiving. Also, we have in this card Venus exalted in Pisces. And I'm just starting to wrap my head around the ideas of exaltations and falls, compliments and detriments. I've just started figuring that out. Not beyond just trying to, well, this is memorizing what it is. I've just started being able to figure out what that means and how that comes to be. And so now I'm going to start eventually, I think, being able to use that in readings. And I'm going to try right now. So right here we have Venus in Pisces, which is emotional bonds are loosened. Now, the Venus is emotional connections, unions, right? But in this expansiveness, emotional expansiveness of Pisces, there's a loosening here. So we're able to reevaluate our shared participation in our relationships. There's a little bit, giving a little bit more space, right? A little bit more emotional largeness. The pool, the lake is expanding a little bit because Jupiter is, of course, the natural inhabitant of Pisces. So we might want to think of compassion for ourselves and others through Venus. We also might want to think of avoiding the ideal from becoming the enemy of the real. Also perhaps a Venus kind of attribute, the ideal. We want to be careful of that ideal because that ideal is not necessarily the real in this card. And our emotionally saturated and intense environment could be messing Venus up a little bit. It could be a little bit overwhelming, even in this card. So we want to cease defending ourselves against the fear of loss and recognize that those things that do not stay in our experience were never ours to begin with. And remember that Mercury is always questioning, right? Wants to question the status quo here in Libra. And that's part of that breaking apart of the egg. It looks like an egg, but is that really the reality of what is there? Let's pick it apart and open it up and see what lies within. And yes, that snake wants to protect it, but it's perhaps time to allow the breaking open to happen so that we can assess who we are, where we are, who we are in relationship with, and what we're thinking about, and what we're seeing, and what we're experiencing. So this was the significance of this card for me. Yeah, that theatricality, the unconventional trends, new business methods, working conditions may be changing. So I want to be open to releasing the bonds of my associations and allowing a clearer perception, clearer perception of what is happening by dissecting things and analyzing them, clearly perceiving them, questioning what is really happening and what is only appearances. And also being wary that I don't get overwhelmed in the potential for emotional depth that Pisces can bring, because it's Virgo and Pisces. So that's that one. And so the challenge for me is this amazing card, amazing in so many ways, the Strength card. Now here we have, what do you see at the bottom? What is the association for strength in this deck? It is none other than Mars, which is a surprising association until we really, really think about it. So here we have strength being Mars. And where does Mars naturally live in the zodiac? The homes of Mars are two. One is Aries, on the descending path, the wet way, and on the dry path, the ascending path, we have Scorpio. So we've got both cardinal fire on one hand, and we have fixed water on the other. And those attributes are both, I think, color the light of Mars as it enters our world. So here we have strength, this beautiful figure, this powerful woman with the head aflame, and perhaps even a cyclone coming out of the top of her head, radiating light out of her, radiating air out of her mouth, perhaps. A powerful energy speaking into the world, water coming from her breasts. She's just radiating from every pore, right? Radiating energy and perhaps nourishment, which might come from Scorpio. And that directed energy of Mars in Aries. So this is strength and restlessness of the untamed. We could have that power of the wild within us here in this card, which is very Martian in the sense of Mars. Not the planet, well, yeah, the planet, but not in the sense of little green men, but of the planet Mars and the attributes of Mars, Martian. Also, this figure could be an aspect of Sophia. The writer, Christine Payne-Towler, the wonderful creator of this deck, points to Harmozouza. My pronunciation is not very Greek, but that's my attempt at a Greek pronunciation of Harmozouza. And Harmozouza comes from the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Bible. Now, there were 72 Septuagint, 72, who translated the Bible. I forget when it was, but it was a long time ago. Let's just put it that way. It was a long time ago. The date has escaped my mind. But the Septuagint translates the Bible from Hebrew into Greek, perhaps even from Aramaic, from Hebrew and Aramaic into Greek. And this is from, what I'm going to read you right now, is actually from the book of Proverbs. And the book of Proverbs, chapter 8, verses 27 to 31, I think is correct. I didn't write that part down, but I think that's correct. And let me read those verses to you. You'll get the idea of Sophia, and you'll also get the idea of Harmozouza. And I'm reading them in English translation. When God set the heavens in place, I was present. Let me read that again. When God set the heavens in place, I was present. Not God, I was present. When God drew a ring around the surface of the deep, when God fixed the clouds above, when God fixed fast the wells of the deep, when God assigned the sea its limits, and the waters will not invade the land, when God established the foundations of the earth, I was by God's side, a master craftswoman, delighting God day after day, ever at play by God's side, at play everywhere in God's domain, delighted to be with the children of humanity. There's so much in that. So this is God's co-creator, playful co-creator. And it's a feminine co-creator, Sophia. And one of these attributes of Sophia was, I was God's side, as I was by God's side, a master craftswoman or artisan. But artisan loses the gender, which is in the original. Craftswoman. Her, that one. Harmozouza. Now, the creator, the playful creator, and the creator who is here delightfully engaging with the human. The creator, the creatrix, the Sophia, the Harmozouza, who has descended the ladder of lights and is here, of course, with God, because God cannot be, there's nowhere that God is not, but here in Malkut, with creation, playing among and happy to be among creation. That's this one. And that is a powerful being, and has the power of the Godhead in the feminine form. And so we have that strength and restlessness of the untamed Sophia, perhaps. Entrance into fire, and this is the entrance into the fire trine of the major arcana. The trine of emotional and intuitive responsiveness. The fire of impulse and in that kind of intuition and responsiveness. It's a very active thing, the fire, right? Like Leo. It's also the facing challenges head on with courage. The courage of Leo. Which is one reason that often this card is associated with Leo. And yes, there is the thing that, well, this card is Leo because there's a lion on it. And I'm sorry, that is a goofy reason to say that this card should be Leo, because there's a lion. But the original cards, not all cards of strength have lions on them. Yeah, they're burly guys holding up pillars or trying to knock pillars down. There are burly guys trying to beat a lion into submission or to death. Who knows? There are different interpretations of the Strength card. And so it doesn't have to be Leo. And it's not in this deck, it's Mars. Same fire, but this would be cardinal fire rather than fixed fire. And so we've got the courage to face challenges like Mars does. We have the attractive, constructive, and creative aspects of Mars, which I often associate also with the Emperor. The Empress being the open one, the one who is open to creation and giving space for things to naturally become. Whereas the Emperor is the one who goes out into the world and builds stuff, knocks stuff together and makes stuff happen and makes things appear. Right? So we've got a little bit of that here as well. But we also have things like ambition, we have drive, desire, aggression, appetites of Mars. So there's that very attractive, constructive aspect that is kind of sexy, and also a little bit darker side, which can be kind of sexy too. It's a spiritual force to defend and befriend creation, just as Sophia does. And all of those things except for Sophia, a lot of those things we often, I think, mistakenly associate with the masculine. And I don't think they're necessarily the masculine, nor are they the feminine. They're just them. Right? So that's the challenge, and I think this is a challenge for me, something to strive for, to reach for, as opposed to something that will be an obstacle for me, particularly because we've got, yes, this is not Leo here, but it's a good partner for Leo, being Mars and all. So, being Mars, being Aries and all. And yes, there's the Scorpio element of fixed emotions, not fixed as in stuck, but fixed as in collected and focused and like a diamond. Emotions that can pierce. Kind of like this, whatever it is, air or water coming out of her mouth pierces. Looks very piercing, doesn't it? Whereas the water flowing out of her breasts looks softer. It's more of an arc flowing to nourish. Whatever is coming out of her mouth is very piercing, right? So we've got both of those things. Beautiful card. And so what is the advice for me? Here we have the advice being none other than this gorgeous Seven of Cups. Let me show it to you again. See this? We've got the Hydra there, feeding from 7 cups. We've got moons both on top and the bottom, right? No, just one on the top. I'm sorry. We've got the lights radiating like a wheel behind the Hydra. And so the Seven of Cups, this is the Cancer decadent of Pisces. So because it's Cancer, we've got the moon in Pisces. So the Seven of Cups points to the Cancer decadent of Pisces and its subruler, the moon, from which the cardinal aspects of mutable water attributes enter our world. So the moon is shining through Cancer's room of Pisces, through the house of Pisces into our home, into our lives. And Pisces and Cancer are coloring and shaping and affecting the attributes and the energy of the moon shining through. And we also have the complement of Jupiter in Gemini. Now, Jupiter in Gemini. So this all points to the most positive aspects of the Seven of Cups being upright, that I read into the Seven of Cups in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck as well. And a lot of people I know take the Seven of Cups in Pamela Coleman Smith's art with the guy, we see him from the back going like this, and there are the 7 cups, and in each of the cup there's something different. There's a ghost in one, there's a laurel wreath in another, there are jewels in another, there's a castle, there's a dragon, I recall there's a serpent, there's an angel's head, I think. So there's a lot of stuff, and we think of this as being overwhelmed by dreams and possibilities and inability to choose, which for me, inability to choose, and that deck is really the Two of Swords. Anywho, a lot of people read that Seven of Cups very negatively, which I would do it too if it were reversed, but upright, I see it as a very positive thing. And I see this card also as a very positive thing and good advice. So what is the advice of all of this? The Cancer decadent of Pisces and the moon radiating through it and being not necessarily mutated, but shaped and colored and tinged and getting a rinse job as it passes through these houses and rooms and zodiacal signs. So this we have the works of imagination. And imagination does work. It does work for us. It works for us. It does stuff for us. It's the use of dream, desire, daydream to call forth the future. Because our dreams are visions like a vision board. I don't know if you've ever tried using a vision board effectively, but vision boards are dreams placed in front of us as a in sign and symbol, can clarify our daydreams and be a path for our movement toward those as we live our lives of intention, as we follow the powerful flow of intention towards the manifestation of those dreams that we have set out energetically into the future. And there are a plethora of choices available, and this card reminds us of that. The catalytic, awakened imagination is here in this card. Our imagination, as it awakes, catalyzes the manifestation of experiences and dreams and desires in our lives. But in this card, we also want to remember the importance of being able to admit our dreams, being able to admit what we really want. And a lot of us are unable to do that. To honestly admit, this is what I truly want. Being able to discriminate between what it is that my heart really wants and what it is that I think I want because I see other people doing that as well. You know what I mean? Like the fear of missing out. That's not my heart's true desire, right? Buying a whole bunch of decks because I see other people buying a whole bunch of decks, or getting this deck because everybody else seems interested in that deck and I'm like, oh, but I gotta have it too. I'm not saying there's anything, you've seen my shelves in my office. I got a lot of decks, but it's doing it just because I think I need it because I see other people have it, which is different from wanting something because my heart wants it, because it is truly my desire. There's a big difference between those, right? And that's what this card also wants to remind us of, truly admitting what my true heart's desire is. And Jupiter's deep and expansive nature here in Gemini can be wonderful and can be overwhelming. Now, because Jupiter has this expansive nature, right? A depth of thought and possibility, of abundance and a possibility. Whereas Gemini is diversity, right? It could do this, could do that, do that. When those two meet, it can be very, very evocative and expansive and interesting, but it could also be really overwhelming. Now, all that depth with all of these choices can just be could sap our energy. So we want to be careful of that. We want to be able to focus our desires into our lives. That's what I'm trying to say. So here we have this card as the advice. This is what I want to do. So what does this all mean for me for today? Well, it was a very interesting day today. In the morning, I was asked by the general supervisor of my department in this winter camp that I'm teaching to ask my roommate if he wanted to get a little bit of overtime by supervising some of the children who we will be all gathering together to do a rehearsal of our stories before the performance of the stories. The night before the performance, we'll have this big final dress rehearsal and a lot of kids, and we need people there to supervise them as we watch each team do their thing. And so I asked my roommate, and he said yes. And then I went to teach my classes, and I was very, very, very pleased, very, very pleased, because not only had the team, I think I mentioned yesterday that one of my groups of students had completed their script. We had done a first read through of the script. We had made corrections, and we've got a pretty finalized script from them. So that was all taken care of pretty much yesterday. But my remaining two groups, they finished their scripts today, which I was really, really pleased with. And there were some students who were screwing around, not really focusing on their tasks, but the really important tasks, to my mind, got done today, which I was really happy with and really relieved to perceive. And then, but in between those times, between the morning and the afternoon classes, I had lunch, and during lunch I was talking to other teachers, and I found out that what I had told my roommate about the overtime work that I had asked him to do was not exactly correct. I had told him, because this is what I had understood, that he would just be generally doing crowd control, which, being a theater person, I could totally understand. You've got a whole bunch of people getting ready to do their thing. We need crowd control. We need them to be quiet and respectful and managed off in the wings, and they're brought down when the time is right and then sent back up when, crowd control. Apparently, that's not what it is. Apparently, that's not what it is. We're going to have, apparently, one supervisor for each of the groups who are going to be presenting their stories. And that person is supposed to be in a room rehearsing the stories with the kids until it's their time to come down. And then they'll go back up after they've done their performance and gotten some notes, and then help the students incorporate those notes into their performance and help them fix it. That's a lot of intense work, if you ask me. And I thought, what the frick? That's not what I asked my housemate to do, my roommate to do. And so I was a little bit ticked off, because I felt like I had unintentionally lied to my roommate about what I had asked him to do. And I wanted to go back and tell him what the real truth was. And I wanted to tell the people who had asked me to ask him that, he might say no now, because the situation is very different. Fortunately, he agreed to it. He understood, and he said, yeah, I can do that too. So everything's okay, but for a brief moment during lunch, I was pretty ticked off, because I felt like I had been put in a position of lying. Not active lying, not manipulative lying on my part. And I know that the person who told me to ask him wasn't lying. He just misrepresented the truth, didn't give me an accurate representation of what I was asking my roommate to do. And so you understand what I'm saying. So there is that. But except for that, everything seemed to work out really, really well. Now, was my little, and I don't know, I was what do you call it? Peeved. I was miffed. I was peeved. I wasn't piffed. I was miffed. I was peeved. Now, did that damage my reputation? I hope not. I don't think I was that big. I did get a little bit snippy when people were telling me, well, the students have to rehearse, and it's like, dude, I know theater. I know that. It's just that I was told one thing and it was something else. That's all. Yes, I do understand the need for rehearsal. That was my job. That was my job in the past. I know that. You don't have to tell me that. So I was a little bit peeved, miffed at that point, but I don't think it was so bad that my reputation was damaged. But we have entered into a new stage of this theatrical performance that we are preparing for, which I think that is what the Ten of Wands was representing for me for today. New business methods, because now that we've got the scripts done, we're moving into a new stage of the business of preparing for the theatrical event. Now the new action is going to be replacing the old. There's going to be a different slant on entertainment. We've got different angles to be perceiving what we're working on. And so the Three of Swords, this is the time to dissect what we're actually looking at, what we're doing, to let go of things that are unnecessary and enter into new relationships with each other as we are moving into new stages of the preparation of the theatrical event. And so the need for my strength to face what is, sure, but the creative force, the creative fire, the creative power of all of that, I think I felt that today as we moved along in the preparation process. And so, yeah, I was envisioning how we would move forward today. I was envisioning what the possibilities are and how we will materialize what is now scripted as we move forward. Kind of what this is maybe pointing to. That makes sense, doesn't it? I think this reading was, while not, oh my God, look at this marvelous thing that's about to happen kind of a reading, but it is very accurate in what I am doing and how I'm proceeding, particularly for today as a daily reading rather than a 10-year plan kind of reading, right? As a daily reading, we often want to, I think, tone things down to the daily level rather than the monumental level of some other kinds of readings. Does that make sense? And so because of that, I think today's set of cards was very revelatory, was very clear. And yes, I did approach what I was doing today with courage, I think. I didn't get overwhelmed by kids who were a little bit distracted, or kids who were, I don't know what I'm going to do, or kids who were, no, let me do it. Don't get out of my way. Let me do it. And everything seemed to work out well. So there we are. That's what it is. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? If you're still here, hit that thumbs up button so that people know, that YouTube knows that you got something out of this and other people may get something out of it as well. It brings more eyes to the channel. And also, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I'm doing one a day for 50 days until the new moon in February. So get all belled up and really comment below. I would love to hear from you. What do you think? How did this reading seem to you? And speaking of readings, if you want a reading from me, my email address is in the description box, and you can send me an email to thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com, and we can get you a reading, anything you want. Short, big, let me know. Also, if you want to get these decks, the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler, there's a link in the description box below. If you want to get the mass market edition of the Egyptian Tarot, there is a link to the Amazon site below. I don't get any money if you use that link. It's just there for your convenience. So there we are, friends. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. And as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.